What's up guys, Jeff Cavalier, ATHLEAN-X.com. Today we're talking all about 90s bodybuilding. But no, we're not going to focus on the things that you should avoid from that era. I'm talking about the things you should still be doing. Because you see, if you want to see your best muscle gains, you got to focus on what they were doing right. What is this?
How are you talking about 90s bodybuilding and not mention 90s bodybuilder Jesse? You know, with the outfit, and not only that, my new VHS tape, Pumping Jesse, available to you for only 3 easy installments of $5.99. And if you order in the next 5 minutes, I'll include my audio tape, just in case you want to learn from the car. We accept all major credit cards and COD.
Dude, you're something else, you know that?
Oh, I know I'm something else. That's why they love me out there. Run it. All right, guys, point number 1. If you want to get as big and jacked as me, you have to listen to something that my mom told me a long time ago. Big lifts, gains come swift. Little weights, they'll have to wait. What that means is before you head over to the all-important pec deck to get that chiseled chest, you're going to have to take the cherry on top of this 550 bench press. It's a tale as old as time, song as old as rhyme. If you want to look like a beauty, you got to be a...
People actually bought this shit, Jesse?
Yeah, a lot of people have bought this.
All right, well, let me see if I can decode what he was saying. Yes, compound movements should be done before your isolation moves, because if you do it in the opposite order, you're only sacrificing your performance on the compound lifts. And even though the bodybuilding focus is about creating muscle growth and hypertrophy, we know that you're going to be able to drive muscle growth through an increase in strength. You're only as strong as your weakest link, and if your weakest link are fatigued first, you're not going to perform as good on your compound lifts. Does this thing get any better, Jesse? I hope so.
All right, point number 2, if you want to get big, strong, and jacked just like me, you got to train to failure on every single set. Now, what does that mean? You got to start breathing fire. Like a mythical dragon. You got to start training until you feel like you're bleeding from the eyes.
Please tell me that was ketchup.
Nope, that's all blood, baby.
The dragon breath after lunch for you, I could totally vouch for that. All right, by the way, who knew what kind of controversy you were going to spark 30 years later? But I can tell you this, training to failure was, is, and always will be an effective driver of muscle growth. And I say it all the time, you can either train hard or you can train long, but you can't do both. And for those that think that high volume and a weak effort is some sort of a workaround for hard-ass work, you're wrong. Creating change is always going to require some sort of a challenge, so be ready for it. What I'm saying is, push yourself until you can't get another rep in good form, and make sure you respect your own recovery. And if you do those two things, I promise you guys, muscle gains will await you. Now, bleeding from the eyes? I mean, totally not necessary. All right, maybe just before you do.
All right, guys, point number 3. If you want to get big and strong and jacked just like me, you got to remember tension trumps totals. The numbers on the side of the dumbbell and on the bar don't matter as much as the tension that you put in the muscle. Now, if you really want to speak the language of the muscles, you speak tension to it. I get it. Your mother doesn't like me. Oh, you want me to take the garbage out? Stop making a scene, all right? What's going on with you? Fine, I will take the garbage out just as long as you give me another rep.
Okay, that was a little uncomfortable. Nonetheless, what Jesse is saying here is actually true. You see, you want to focus on tension. Don't always focus on top end strength when you're trying to create muscle growth, because we know there are more ways to get there. So what I'm saying is, every once in a while, focus on slowing those reps down, squeezing the muscle that you're training, taking momentum out of the equation. Because you see, when you're trying to create muscle growth and force that adaptation, inefficiency of the exercise you're performing is actually the best way to get there. As a matter of fact, the inefficiency actually leads to an efficiency at the rate at which you start to see the gains it is that you're seeking.
Tip number 4 for getting big and strong and jacked just like me. Listen, it's easy for anyone to take the first set to eye-bleeding failure. But do you have what it takes to keep going past that? So what I like to do with my drop sets is once I start bleeding from the eyes, I drop the weight. And then once I start bleeding from my ears, I drop the weight again. And then once I start bleeding from my nose, continue to drop the weight. Bleed from my mouth, drop the weight again. And then once I start bleeding from an orifice that I never thought I'd be bleeding out of, drop the weight even further.
Okay, now that's training to failure. Okay, look, we talked about the importance of training to failure. At the very least, increasing the intensity that you're training at. However, this is where the set intensifying techniques, like the drop set, come in incredibly handy, because they work then and they'll continue to work as a way to ensure that you're pushing yourself hard enough. As an example on a bench press, if you were to perform a set to failure and you failed down at your chest, how do you know that it was your chest that actually got the work? Most often it's going to be the front delt that actually gives out. So by lightening the weight and going into a second set there, you're actually able to get more out of the chest and in the long run create more opportunity for growth. So don't overlook the benefit of utilizing some of these intensifying techniques when it's more gains that you're seeking.
All right, guys, tip number 5 for looking as big and strong and jacked as I am is posing. Every good bodybuilder knows that you got to spend at least a few hours in front of the mirror admiring that physique and that masterpiece you've been working on for so long. And it doesn't matter if you're blocking the dumbbell rack and no one else can use that weight. This is all about you and your own gains.
Oh, shit. Okay, so flexing, posing, it actually is beneficial. But I'm not saying you have to break out the posing trunks and the tanning oil to look good, but I'm saying is you can actually work on it either before your training or as part of your training. If you work on it before your training, it will help you to develop a mind-muscle control with a muscle that you don't necessarily have a good connection with, which can make your training more effective. And if you use it as an interset technique, the great Bruce Lee actually talked about using crossovers and isometrics in between sets of push-ups. It doesn't matter how you incorporate them, guys. Just don't overlook them entirely. Flexing a muscle can actually be a good thing.
Hey, Jeff.
Oh, man, you're
something
back.
I forgot to mention on my VHS was that tanning makes you look that much better in everything you do.
Really? You think that looks better?
Oh, I think I missed a few spots. Tip number 6 for getting big and jacked and strong just like me is protein and supplementation. Now, thankfully, you guys have it easy. When I grew up, it was like drinking battery acid. Now, with flavor technology taken to a whole new level, you guys got scrumptious flavors just like vanilla. Now, if you want to talk about advanced with supplementation, check out this beauty. Creatine monohydrate. You take this in the first week, you're gaining 8 to 10 pounds of muscle mass. If you get stomach cramps, just ignore them because you're going to be focusing on all the new gains that you get.
Look, while I'm not one to pump that you have to have 300 grams of protein per day in order to gain muscle, I will say there's an undeniable truth to the fact that getting your protein requirements is infinitely easier when you have access to a protein supplement or a protein powder. That being said, we can all be grateful for the improvements in flavoring because you are afforded now the luxury of much better tasting proteins that make it a hell of a lot easier for you to meet your daily requirements. If we didn't, we'd all be drinking rat piss like I was back in the day, like bodybuilder Jesse. And when it comes to creatine, guys, I don't think there's a single bodybuilding supplement on the market that has stood the test of time more than it, that has been proven to be safe and effective and therefore a viable candidate to be included in your supplement regimen when you're trying to build muscle.
Tip number 7 for getting big, strong, and jacked just like me is remember to do your isolation exercises. Now, my mom said lightweights have to wait, but that doesn't mean don't do them at all. So next time you're feeling self-conscious about ripping off a killer set of kickbacks in the gym, just remember to focus on your own gains, and besides, a pair of Zubaz, a fanny pack, and a killer stringer is enough to restore your manhood.
Now, as long as those big compound lifts are in place, there's no denying the importance of the isolation exercises, and in the bodybuilding era, they filled the gaps to create that stage-ready look. But you see, now they've taken on a new role in our training. They help us as accessory lifts to our bigger lifts. Take an exercise here like the straight arm push down. This is not just a good way to target straight arm scapular strength and build the lats more effectively, but it actually is a great accessory exercise to the deadlift, reinforcing one of the most important elements to the lift to get that bar off the ground and keep the bar close to your body. The fact is, guys, compound lifts are always going to form the foundation of your training, but those isolation exercises are certainly going to be part of it as well. So remember, guys, you can learn anything from any era if you're willing to open up your mind to it. If you're looking to go way back to the strongman era, make sure you check out this video here. If you want to see maybe what you should avoid from the 90s, we have that too. You can check out this video here. If you're looking for a program, guys, you can check out.
Thank you for mentioning programs. Guys, Pump and Jess is still available to you.
I'm done.
Easy installment.
I'm done.